Boom, we're live. Well, welcome to another edition of Life as People. And well, before we go any further, how are you doing tonight, Alex?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you, my friend. Just excited to be here, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak again. It was a great discussion that we had last time. So yeah, I'm really happy about it.
Well, as we were quickly just discussing before we did go live, you're an expat living in America. So, I mean, just before you go any further, from someone who's lived abroad, and had the experience of that, is there any one particular thing that you miss about the UK? I mention this because I lived abroad maybe pre-millennium and just around the turn of millennium, and it was always harder to get certain things. So when people came abroad from England, we were like, "Oh, bring us chocolate or bring us, X magazines and stuff." So is that changed for you now, or are there still things that you still think, "Oh, as an expat, I can't wait to go back to the UK for, I don't know, fish and chips or eels and mash or something." I don't know.
I'd probably say just the culture of it. It's a very different culture in the UK. Like it's a very the culture itself is a very refined culture, I find, and there's nothing like home. There's never anything like home. I do miss the food. I do miss like a full English breakfast, with the fried toast and everything like that. I really enjoy that. But I think it's just the people, really. And like some people say the weather's not too great, but I did really like the weather when I was in the UK, right? I really loved it. That sort of the dark and dreary days. Like I really like those as well.
Well, I've often, not only do I think it's I enjoy that as much because I've had the same experience, but I think I don't know. I've always thought there's maybe a connection between having those dark, dreary days, as you just said, and those days when it's literally dreaky outside, as they say up here in Scotland. But it's those days that make the person be more, inventive, and they have to stick inside, and they have to sit and chip away and work at things. And I've always sort of looked at where some of the great sort of enlightenments have happened. They've always had happen in colder climates where you don't sort of see a lot of innovation going on in the middle belt. I don't know. That's a very general stereotype, but it's just very true. Because I just maybe think maybe there is something about the cold that actually makes you kind of more in, what is it, the quote, necessity is the mother of invention, and when you're in the cold you have to start inventing things to keep you warm. I don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like in England and the UK, it's what there is kind of like this insular thing going on in the society. I feel like people are getting more insular in themselves, and then also that allows for development. Certainly in my experience, that's what's happened to me, where I've been inside and I've been thinking about things a lot, and you feel like you have to do something. Kind of, there isn't really another avenue for you to go. So like that's a very interesting concept to me. The movement of what the mind can create when you're alone, when you're isolated. I feel that's like where my best work gets done. Maybe you're the same as an artist. Maybe you enjoy people. People are very different, though. People are very different in terms of what they like and what they do and how they work the best. Definitely.
So was it in? So sort of like the question I really want to really sort of kind of focus on with you, because we didn't sort of get to chat a lot of this about when we were on the other podcast. But where did this whole journey into what has now become ICO Countdown? Where did this all begin for you?
Well, initially, I stumbled across Bitcoin, and like my background is kind of like a very computer science, cybersecurity background, but I've also been in like the financial realm for a very long time, also, right? I've also done like kind of environmental stuff as well. So essentially, I found out about Bitcoin, and then I was just doing a lot of research on it. I read the white paper, and then I found out that there was all these, at the time, there wasn't as many alternative cryptocurrencies as there was now, but there was like a small handful. And I felt at the time that because I checked into each one, and then I found out that they were doing different sort of technical development and stuff. So in the back of my mind, I was like, well, even from that early stage, I was like, there can't only be one, right? There can't just be one idea coming forward here. People were contributing actively to multiple projects. And then at that point, I was like, well, I did a lot more research on it, and that's been going for me now for a couple of years. So I've been in the space. I think I've been in the space for about maybe 4 years now. So, but the thing that really triggered me to do ICO Countdown was like I found like a lot of projects weren't getting the necessary spotlight or the necessary funding amounts that they needed to continue. So I felt like if I created a platform where there could be more marketing exposure, more exposure of sort of like crowd sale developments, then that's where I really wanted to place my time and effort, because I feel like a lot of the time we really undervalue the space, and we feel like the space isn't moving very quickly, but there are a lot of eyes on this space that people probably aren't even aware of. So that was my idea, to create like a fostering environment for people that want to get involved, but didn't really know how to do it accurately. They wanted to, just to give them an entry point, a way in, an easy way in. I feel like a lot of the time when people design technology or like new websites, it's so complicated. But what I wanted to do was simplify it, basically just, put it down to the grassroots and make it very simple, make it very easy. And that's how it's become successful, I think, because people are, they're paying attention to it, they care about it, and that's what I've always wanted. Ever since I was a very young person, I knew that I believe in fate, kind of, and I feel like some things are a destiny. Like you have to fulfill a specific purpose, and that's just one of my attributes. Is like foresight. Foresight is what I've had from like a very young age. So the ability to spot and disseminate specific things, and then also to spread the word, to spread knowledge about specific things, and then help the advancement. Because I feel like if you, focus all your time on technology, right, and then no one ever sees the technology or gets exposed to it, then it's a really big issue. And that's why, generally a lot of companies, sometimes, that's why like 90% of businesses fail and stuff like that, is because obviously they can't get that sort of empowerment behind them. So that's really the aim of it. And I found like a lot of projects like your project and specific the N99 projects, and I was like, this is a fantastic project because it's so different. So you need different projects to come up. You need people to be involved, and they need to be reputable and good. And who knows what sort of effect that could have, right? It's like, have you heard of like the butterfly effect? Like a very small impact on the world could have a huge impact later on. So even if that stimulates an idea, or even if you get like, just a small increase in funds, like $100, it could allow you to do something completely out of bounds, and you could hit it out of the ballpark, right? That's like my idea. My idea is, that core concept where it's like, just try your best to move stuff forward in a positive way, and make it obvious to people, like what's happening and why they should be involved, and then also mitigate their risks so they don't exit the space.
Well, I think it's an essential part, an essential stone in this whole ecosphere new paradigm we're building. Because I think you're absolutely right. Because I completely concur with you, because I'm old enough to sort of remember that so much stuff has happened, but like you said, unless people are aware of it, unless it's simple and easy to use, it just goes away, and people think, oh, whatever. And that's what I loved about when I didn't really, I'll be honest, I didn't know about anything about your site until after I launched with the crowd sale. And it was just like, this is exactly what I needed. I needed this site to sort of, exactly what you said, to basically dissolve another barrier, which is the area that we're both, I think, pushing towards. Now, one of the things I before we go any further, and you mentioned right at the beginning of you were just saying then, you said you had some sort of knowledge and history and in both security and finance. Now, to me, that's two of the murky waters that are about to change in the new paradigm. Now, my question I have to you is someone who's got some sort of area and knowledge that, how many people in that area are aware of what is about to happen to their, how we're about to shift into one paradigm, with the new technologies. I think the reason I say this, I've spoken to a number of people who are in that business world, and they seem to be very much ostriches in their heads with their saying, they put their heads down, they don't want to think about it, and all they're focused on is almost the next bonus and the next bonus. And I try to describe to them about, how the amount of computer servers are being centralized, and just how things just generally, you can't stick with technology. It's going to move on and progress beyond them. But they just don't want to hear. So I'm asking you, from someone who's got, as you said, knowledge and in those of both safety and the finance, do you think people in those circles are aware? And if so, are they doing anything about it, or are they just putting their heads in the sand deliberately and thinking, well, it's not going to affect us? I mean, I'm just interested.
Yeah. Well, it's a big risk, like for them, because they feel like, if they change the system like too quickly, then there can be really big mistakes in that system. So they kind of want to keep the old legacy systems the same, but they do want to experiment with new and upcoming technologies. The problem is that right now, again, there isn't enough marketing and exposure for them to be as big as they potentially can, right? From like a security standpoint, like all these systems that are being designed right now, like the feature sets, stuff like Made Safe, stuff like like the new and upcoming projects like Agorist or like Ethereum or all these huge projects, even your own project, they're totally different from what anyone's ever understood before, right? So the whole idea now is to, it's a fundamental change. It's not just like, oh, we're switching from this technology to this technology. You're going from centralized networks to decentralized networks, or like hybrid systems. So it's completely different in the minds of other people. Now, if the inquisitive people will want to experiment and see where it's going, I've met a lot of people, especially in sort of some firms and stuff like that are involved in definitely looking at specific projects and definitely trying to move, taking a risk, taking a hedge in specific projects to move it forward. But is that adoption going to happen very quickly? No. A lot of the time, it's up to the grassroots movement to actually push it forward and make sure that it has an impact. Things don't just make an impact because people think they will. You have to kind of, market it actively, advertise it, and make sure that people are aware of the advantages and the disadvantages and that level. There's no real, but the question was really, are they looking at it? Yes, there's a lot of people really have their eyes on this space, like very deeply, and they care about it. The same change that you feel in your heart, they feel in their heart also. But there's some people, again, it's like a mixed bunch as well. It's like, some people feel like, yeah, everything's just going to stay the same forever. Everyone knows that to be not the case, though. That's against like humanity and all that stuff, because everything has to evolve. Even mankind evolves, like creatures evolve, trees evolve, everything evolves, right? Like architecture evolves. So like at the end of the day, it's not gonna, I don't feel like, a lot of people say this will do some damage to the financial system at this point. I don't think it will do damage. I believe it can like help the financial system, and it can like aid everyone involved. So I feel like if we work and we help in that sort of area, it gives more exposure to us. And generally, it's just a positive movement forward. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, completely, and I think the only people to fear about this, and this is one of the things I'm fascinated with, because I think it's about, like you say, it's about being inclusive, and I don't want this to become just almost this decentralized thought process, just being about people who almost fit into the stereotype of being a certain kind of category, because it is for everybody. And one of the things that I've always been fascinated about, I think the only people that have got anything to fear for this are the monopolies. Because if I was in financing, I was in a business, I wouldn't want the government, I wouldn't want these middlemen, I wouldn't want the barriers. I want to be doing as much free trade because at heart, that's going to help my profits and my company. And I don't want to be paying out taxes, and I don't want to be obeying to regulations. And, you sort of understand that, a lot of free market, I think, would be very much behind all this. And the only people that I think that are ever going to have fear for it or going to have any kind of pushback are going to be the monopolies. But then they're the ones at the moment, by nature of the word, have monopolies over everything else. So that's what they become. And this is the thing about where we are in 2016. We've got these things called corporations that have rights under political laws that are same rights as humans. And that's look at what we created. And they are just these massive illusions, really, and that these things control our lives. And I think they're the people that are going to fear the most. But I think that other than that, I think maybe 90% would love all this stuff. I mean, if you go to most countries, and I've been around the world and been fortunate to know that, the countries that almost every company I've ever spoken to, every human being from a trader right up, all they want to do is be freed from the regulations and the barriers and all the things that stop them, existing to the best of their potential. I don't know how that's how you sort of see it.
Well, it's sort of with a different paradigm, with a different sort of idea, comes a shift, right? So it means that obviously when we try to do these things and when we try to create new technology, there's a few sort of, well, there's not even really inconsistencies. I feel like, me boiling it down as a person, it's like I feel like people have the freedom to create technology that they need and want. And that's my statement, like in terms of whether laws and applications apply to it, there's some laws that haven't even been set because the technology is so new. So, again, I feel like it's up to us to work with people to kind of, give them an idea of what's going on so that the development can happen in a free movement sort of way. It's like if you look at like Silicon Valley in California, right? And you look at Uber, right? So Uber is like a huge company. It's like a unicorn, billion-dollar company, and they are, they're heavily funded and they're disrupting the taxi cab industry. Okay, so does the monopoly laws apply to them when that comes into practice? Like, is it bad that they're disrupting an entire system that has been set on for generations? The taxi service industry, is it bad? Is it good? There is no real, with technology, it's almost like if it happens, it happens, and then you have to adapt to it. But I feel like we should definitely try to have a movement towards helping everyone and making it an all-inclusive thing, whether it be, anyone that wants to get involved in this space. The traditional idea of thinking that, things can't change, like I said before, is like, I think it's like very unbelievable. It's, new paradigms, new changes shift all the time. And to be quite honest with you, you want to be engaged with that shift before it and when it happens. Okay, it might be a slow transition, but you want to be on the next new technology. It's like, when computer systems came out or mobile systems came out, you would want to be with those technologies. Because generally it's good for everyone. There's not really a bad or a negative to it, right? Like there's no real, oh my God, it's a huge problem. It's more of a really good, it's like a really good invention that should be ushered in and that has a power to cause and influence change and change for the good on all sides, not just a financial side, but for, like, let's say auditing, or let's say, just anything, just the breadth of the technology itself can do so many things. And that's why people in the space right now are looking to explore all those nooks and crannies of what this technology can do. Of course, you're going to get people involved, and they're going to say, "Well, is it right? Is it wrong? Was the wheel right, or was the wheel wrong when it was invented? Like, who knows? But we have it today." So those things are very sort of. To me, it's like you have to create and then really then obviously survey the landscape, survey the laws, survey the current architecture, but then if you feel like a technology is going to do something, then I don't see any advantage not to be involved with it, right? It doesn't really make sense, right? You know what I mean?
Oh, completely, and I think that if you want to take that sort of step further, that not only should we be involved in it, I think it's essential that humanity starts to, basically understand, right, what is the thing we have at the moment, our edge over all this, because if this is going to rise, it's our creativity. So I think we need to focus strongly on that and shape this new stuff and make it more inclusive, because I think it's down to us as the tools in hand. But I think equally, if you don't, like I said before, and you don't want to get involved in it, then what will happen is you'll just put it off, and someone else will do it. And, well, isn't history just littered with the outcomes of people who just basically just turn the other way and let other people do and with technology as they please, because a few people. And that's why I think there's no more excuses in our generation to say, like I said before, I mean, you can't really sort of walk around and go, oh, no, I'm actually still... But strongly for the VHS. You move on, because it's that's how life does move on. And I think the people that basically don't understand, like you said, and don't get involved in it, it's not just a case of like, oh well, I've got the choice to. No, if you don't get involved, and this is what I fear, and this is one of the things that maybe as an artist I struggle with, and I contemplate a lot. Is like, why are so many people just basically almost like in this zombie-like status and thinking, oh, don't worry, everybody else is going to invent it. Apple will do it, Google will invent it, Tesla's going to invent it. And you think, why are we always just in this mode of just putting it off to everybody else? And I think that's something that's very dangerous about humanity, because like I said, history is littered with evidence of where that's happened before. And man, look what's going on in Europe right now, man. We've got walls building up, people walking around with old school things on their arm patches. We've got humans just fighting humans over ideologies, and what's really moved on. And that's what I'm saying. It's great to have all this technology, but we've got to all, as you said quite rightly, both, I think we completely concur, it's got to be for everybody, not just one little set of people over here and them lot over here. And this is what I try to do with N99. It's just and other projects are doing what you're doing. It's just basically dissolving the barriers and saying, look, come on board, people, come on board. You can all be involved, and not just making it just for a set of programmers or for a set of dreamers over here, or a set of we need to all be involved. And I think it's essential. And I don't think we've got to the point in history where we can go, oh well, I've got a I'm in the middle. It's like people who vote and go, oh, I don't know which way I'm going to vote 4 weeks before the election. You think, well, A, that you're even considering voting to think about you as a mindset. But if you haven't decided on any election, anything by 4 weeks ahead, is that really? How does your mindset work? Most of us are black and white about most things, and I think we've got to kind of, for the state of humanity, we've got to kind of all push ourselves and basically say to everyone around us, that's like you said, that butterfly effect, and we can't just be just sitting in our corners and going, oh well, let's not do anything about it. We've got to say to everybody, you've all got to be involved. You've all got to be involved, because I think it's essential. And I know that's what I love about your ICO Countdown, your whole movement and what we're doing, and so many other projects are doing, and all of decentralisation generally, for all its faults, but it's all about trying to be inclusive for as many people and break down as many barriers as possible, so we can all just basically shift the paradigm.
Yeah, I mean, it's important, because at this stage that we're at right now, it's really important that we get, some really great projects moving forward, and projects that not only can be successful for everyone involved in the project, but also be beneficial in terms of the societal use of them. So that's my real aim of it. My core concept is to make sure that these projects are realized. So if and then at least when I die, I can say, oh, I helped that happen. I made sure that there was changes happening, and I will never feel guilty about it, and I'll never feel upset because I know that in principle I've tried to move a technological shift, and I was a part of that movement, right? Like when movements like this happen, you really don't want to be sitting on the back burner of it and just observing. What you really want to do is get your hands dirty and say, like, what can we actually do here? Can we actually make this happen? Stretch yourself. And that's what I say to all the people listening to this. Like, really stretch yourself. Go out of the way. Like, see what you can do as a human being. Are you satisfied? Are you truly satisfied in what you do? If yes, go for it. But if you are not, then make sure that you try and satisfy what you want to do in your life. Like, what is your purpose? Understanding your purpose is a very hard concept to grasp, right? Because people just think, right, I'm going to try and earn money. I'm going to try and start a family. I'm going to try and own a house. I want to try and do these things. And that's great. And that if that's the life's purpose and you're trying to move towards that, I'll never say anything bad against that. But then there's different people in this society that we're living in. And the other side of the society, well, a number of people, and then the other end of that is sort of like people that want to instigate true change, like true ideological, and technological change in even just like, I mean, from my perspective, it's like computer systems. Do I think centralized computer systems are better than decentralized computer systems? In some cases, yes, but in some cases, no. Now, if I can help a bunch of people create something that has a huge impact on this planet and this world, and we can make things that are big and brave and strong and will help the generations to come, like, why wouldn't I do it? It's almost selfish of me not to do it, right? It's like selfish, because then I could just follow a very simple path, but I don't really like the simple path. I like a complex path. So that's my aim. That's my goal. And it's really to push sort of. It's not even change. It's like you have to focus in on what you believe in, and then try it, and then really, really work, because nothing in this life, and I'll tell this to everyone, nothing in this life happens without hard work. Nothing ever. So even, that's and at your starting point, you could have all the money in the world, or you could be disadvantaged. But if you move forward and you work very hard, then you will achieve what you want to achieve. And you got to keep trying. You might have failures. You might have tons of successes and then tons of failures. You might have all successes, but everyone's different. But the most important thing is to keep trying and to keep working very hard. Yeah,
exactly, and I think that is number one step of the step of how the paradigm starts, because this is the general paradigm we live in at the moment, where that isn't valued. I mean, we live in a culture, and I know it's the same for you in America, where everything is about the instant, about how you look in a moment and all this sort of stuff. And like you said, what you've just described completely, whether you're starting a project, whether you're an idea, even based on a piece of artwork or a piece of music, it's like you said, it's a journey. And I think what's we've all been in this sort of thought process of like, oh, it's too hard work. We almost put like you said, we put the word hard work to it. And instead, it's not. It's a journey, and it's like life itself. Sometimes you're going to fall. Sometimes, and these aren't when you fall, they're not. That's a negative. Look at it and go, okay, what lesson did I learn? How did that happen? What can I learn next time not to fall? And you just see everything above you, and you see, and you step along the way, and you step along the way. And before you know it, if you keep that intention alive, and I think that's the hardest part. I think that because we live in this world full of distractions, it's the hardest part for most people. It's just basically keeping a focused intent and actually doing something, and not just going, oh, I'll leave that, put it on the side, that's a great idea, and I'll come back to it and pick up, and then before you know it, they've got a big pile of papers of great ideas and nothing ever gets done. And I think sometimes it's marrying the two, and this is where, It's the same process I said for a piece of artwork or a piece of music or anything really. It's the same element is true anything, but it's like you said, never before in our times have we got the ability to have these tools in front of us, and that's what I think is really inspiring to me, and I'm sure it must be to you as well. That is that we can have this conversation, and that's why I say to people all the time, like, just have an idea, go out there. If you talk about it, and if you put like what you just eruditely described, and you put all those steps in the process, before you know it, you're sitting having a conversation like we are. It's all about diving into life rather than just sitting back and being a passenger in life.
Yeah. It's like you think about how many opportunities you have in this life, and like I try to take every opportunity that I potentially can. Like, okay, if it doesn't make sense, maybe avoid it. But at the same time, explore your options and explore the dimensions that you're trying to get involved in. And the most important thing, I think, is like do something that you love doing. If you want to do something and you just love doing that one thing, and it's gonna be like it could be a hard road, but at the end of the day, like you might regret it. But I'm not living the life of regret. I'm living the life of I'm trying to just do my thing, and I'm thankful every day that I've got the opportunity to do it in my capacity, and I've actually got the ability to do it. But that ability didn't come from nothing. That ability came from like years of hard work. Like years and years and years of hard work. But it wasn't bad. It didn't hurt because I knew what I was doing it for. I knew that it was something positive I was doing, and I knew that it had to be done at the end of the day. So it wasn't like sad or anything. It was happy. It was like positive because I just wanted to move it forward in that way. And now you just see the rewards of it. And it's really good. It's like, I'm here talking with you, and your project has done very well, and now you're probably on the stage of building it, and then creating that. I've helped you to build a project up, and then imagine if I didn't help, what might have happened? Who knows? Like maybe it would have done worse, maybe it would have done better. Who knows? But the point is that anything you can do to help in something that you believe in, you should probably do it, because people see the effects of that very, very quickly, I feel, and they appreciate you.
Exactly, and this is the key element as well, and which is kind of really the theme of what we've been discussing tonight. We've got these great tools in our hands. We've got this technology. And now it's just about putting us as humans and telling everybody around us, like, wow, do you know, it's open there for you. You can go in, you can jump in. And the more that people, it does become that momentum. And that's where I think I do say we live in the greatest of days ever, because every day I see this growing and growing, and more people just coming in from every angle. And like you said, and the more people come in, we all just shine and tell them, we point. I mean, that's all I spend my life doing. I just point in people in direction, say, look, this is coming, that's coming. And I could spend hours and hours, just, as you more than me could probably say, just list off the amount of things. And sometimes it's almost overwhelming, but it's as much as it's overwhelming, you just think, wow, this is going to change everything. And it's all about us just doing as much as you can, as like you said, of highlighting the good thing. And it's all about highlighting the things like you said, highlighting the things, enjoying the things you like doing, and just doing that. And just don't focus on the things you don't like. Don't spend your time talking about the things then forget about them, and just think, okay, right, that was that. And this is what I even said to people who don't, and I'm sure you come across them, who have no even comprehension of what we talk about. I said to people, okay, even if you've got no understanding of the discussion what we're talking about, at least go out and tell people what the barriers, what's holding you back as an individual. Who are the middlemen between you and achieving what you want to do? And you let people know about that. Okay, you might not be able to build it, but someone will come along, or someone will point you in direction. Someone will say, "Oh, that solution's already been happening over there." And that's just the great thing about I love the times we now right now. So if anyone comes to me and says, "Okay, I need some help to do a crowdfund," I'll point them in your direction. I'm sure if you have a musician, say, "Okay, I need a platform." We all point each other in each other's directions, because it's beneficial for all of us to do this, because this is where the paradigm is a true paradigm shift. We're not all out there just trying to be crabs in the bucket, trying to pull each other down. There is just this evolution to make us evolve as a human species, and I think that's the paradigm shift between us maybe and our parents' generation.
Well, it's a different, it's a different thought pattern as well. If you're in this community, it's a very different thought pattern. It's a more of a, sometimes like the sort of humanism gets in the way a bit because people are kind of, there's obviously a financial incentive to the entire sort of industry of what we're doing here, right? But at the end of it, what we should be doing is using like sort of open collaboration and making sure that everything succeeds. Because if stuff doesn't succeed, then that's not really a good positive look for us. Like, to bring stuff forward and to make it happen, that's about obviously critique is important, but being rude to people or anything like that can happen as well, and that's all fine as well. But what we really need to do is stimulate growth. So the way to stimulate growth is basically just push forward and make sure that you try and support the things that you want to support, and then the community should support each other as well. That's what I like about the Maytag community. The Maytag community is like probably like one of the best communities because it supports its own, right? Same with BitShares. They've all got this, like, same with Ethereum. They support their own community. And that's what I really like. Obviously the traders in thing and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, if you want to see huge things happen, it's all about sort of creating a microcosm and then making that explode. Right. And that's my idea behind it. I've never come into anything really sort of said. Well, I never try to look at negative anymore. Like, to look at a negative is, I'd rather look at a positive, or try to look at a negative and then build something that's positive out of that negative. Because I don't feel like it helps anything. I feel like it sort of just downgrades what's going on, or it doesn't even downgrade. It doesn't add anything. But to add a positive is probably the most important thing to do. In anything that you do, ever in the history of mankind, and I'm sure people have always been negative about things that they don't understand, or they've been negative about whatever. But at the end of the day, the positive things that have an impact will they will create the foundation, and then that foundation is built upon. So, that's, obviously I'm talking about like Bitcoin here, and then now we've got a whole thriving community of thousands of people across the world in many different communities. Now, what's the next paradigm shift? The next paradigm shift is to bring all those communities together, and then we extrapolate more. You know what I mean? So you've not only got like the finance, you've got the technology, you've got the marketing endeavor, all those things coming together is really important, because we're stronger together and not apart, not separated. That's my idea.
No, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, it's like it's no different in some ways. I mean, I think that's, I don't know. We're all humans at the end of the day, and I think it's, as much as we're on this new digital kind of frontier, it's no different maybe from what it was 500 years ago, when people kind of set off from my part of the world and to go to America, where you are now, my friend. And they were getting in boats and just going across the ocean. And it's kind of like there's the first few sort of people who get across and they tell about it. And we know it's, and this is how I see it at the moment. There's a few kind of people out there, and some are forging ahead, and some of this a bit further ahead in one area. But there's a few kind of like Voyager boats out. But every time we look in our wing mirror, all we're seeing is a massive star fleet behind us. And that's it's inevitable. And that's what, like you were absolutely correctly saying, is that this is the momentum of history. And as much as you're in America now, and look what that became from what it was 500 years ago, I don't think it's going to take 500 years. I think, almost like you said at the very beginning of this conversation, this is going to happen, I think, very quickly. And I think it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning of this conversation. For that to happen really quickly, and this is what I loved, and I think it's been the drive of what I've been completely, it's a mantra every day when I'm building N99, is keep it simple. It's the same as you mentioned earlier on. Keep it simple, because it's got to be made easy, because all this momentum, as I say, every time we look back and we see the Starfleet behind us and think, wow, there's so much coming behind us, all that could be lost if it just gets lost in complication. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
yeah, it
this is
does.
why I think it's essential. Now, I mean, from your area that you're in, I mean, what right now are the barriers that you're kind of coming across? Because you mentioned, is it trying to get the spread, the outreach? What areas that is, if anybody's listening out there, they can come along and think, I can really help with this or get involved in. I mean, what kind of things the barriers that you face that maybe people out there can sort of like chip away at?
Well, like really, for me, there is no barrier. So I'm not really finding a barrier in terms of even the outreach. I launched the site ICO Countdown maybe 1.5 months ago, and it's had nearly 40,000 views. So really, you're looking at like huge views, huge numbers, and I'm creating an outreach that's spreading across the world. Now, how that happened, that's again simple design, simple design. That's very sort of simple, ease of use, and also you've got sort of people in a grassroots movement spreading it around and trusting it. So I'm not finding any barriers currently. I feel like I'm in an amazing position and a very lucky one because that doesn't happen to everyone. So I've got to really treat it with some respect. So from that area, but I mean, in terms of just general barriers that I find, I feel like maybe the barrier to entry on some of the technology is kind of high, right? So I feel like a lot of the technology that's actually created, it's not simple enough for someone to just download, use easily. Just that bare basic stuff. Use easily, implement it, and then there's this other part which is like the implementation into other systems, so you can do the cross implementation. So that's, I mean, on my personal side, I'm not really worried about that. Obviously, I'd like to get my site to spread more, but I'm not really in control of that. People are in control of that. I am in control of it to a certain extent, but the ideas that I see in the technology are these huge ideas. Now, these huge ideas aren't getting some mainstream wide adoption, and I feel like it's because of the ease of use, the simplicity, and also sort of the educational understanding of like what it actually does, right? Because not everyone's from a scientific, computer science background or whatever it may be. You really have to make it simplified and then market it to the most effective sort of use, right? And those are real barriers for me that I'm seeing within the industry, as a whole. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree with you, and not only do I think it's almost like simplifying down, which is great on one end, but on the other end, I'm sitting here talking to you on a laptop, and I don't know how you're receiving it. I don't need to know what goes on underneath the shell of the laptop. I don't need
No.
to know what goes on the shell of my car. I don't need to. All I need to know is, does my laptop do what I require? Does my car take me from A to B? I don't need to know the rest. And that's basically the mentality of most people. The people that sit there like we are doing, we always got to remember, we are the kind of the outliers and the strange people. We're not in the norm. Most people don't want to sit there and know about market caps and and
Yeah.
seed distributions and that's cryptos. They don't want it. That's not the norm, because like it keeps going back to what you're saying. It's all about making it as easy as possible, and hopefully when people don't even think about it and they don't even know to anything. We've seen this with the internet, but the more we can make everything, the applications, like you said, it's not even thinking about it. It's like, it just does it. It just does it. I don't need to, I just pick up the remote and it does it. I'll pick up this and it does it. And this is, I think, it's really inspiring to me. I think I'm glad to hear that you'll find this as well. That there seems to be a lot of projects on the same sort of this mentality about, okay, this can my grandma or can a 3-year-old child use it? If the answer is yes to both of them, then I'm away. I'm happy.
Yeah, but I found a lot of projects cannot do that, and it's not because they can't. It's just because they're trying to cater towards the crypto audience. Now, if you switch the audience up, if you say to yourself, right, how do we make this cool, sexy, and interesting for the general public? Like, you could do like market research. You can understand like the way that specific designs are used, right? So like I've got like a bit of a history in that, in terms of like the marketing and advertising front as well. and sort of managing that. You know, it's, you know, you have to make stuff cool. You have to make stuff look sexy, you know, and it has to be like, whoa, what am I doing here? Like, is this this is really interesting. I don't really fully understand what's going on, but I want to learn more. I want to learn, but crypto's kind of already got that, but you need to stimulate it a bit more, you know? You need to have some sexy graphics. You need to, you know, what is this intuitive, you know, GUI, you know, graphic user interface? That's cool. This website. I think a lot of projects are starting to do that now. Well, you know, a few of them are. But and then on the other side of that, you know, you've got sort of the mainstays. So it's stuff like, you know, MadeSafe. It's like a really interesting project, but at the same time, it's like the marketing. The marketing is not there. You know, the availability of it. Now, I don't want to be offensive when I say that, but I mean, like, it could use so much more. It could use so much more, right? But that's the same across the board with every single project. That's not just a singularity. That's like all of them. So my idea is to obviously through the site is breach a wider audience. Breach, you know, first you breach the computer science market, like the technical market. Then you breach the financial market, okay? Then you breach like the advertising and marketing market. And then you just bring more people in. You just keep on bringing them in. You educate them. You talk to them. And you say, this could be amazing. The potential for this is huge. A lot of people, you know, came from the original crypto community, from computer science, from cryptography. So mathematics, like deep mathematics. But it's changing now, and we have to expand outside of that, right? That's the goal, really.
No, exactly. And what you just described then is, I mean, I've always kind of known maybe with what I've done with N99, we've always forged the path that is a kind of lonely path and not many people are going down, because I've always had from the day one I've thought about, okay, I'm going to do this, is to basically just go, okay, I'll go out to the musicians, the creators people, ask them what they need, get them to tell them about what we're building on, just be as honest as you possibly can. And go and tell them. And this is the thing, all the time they're going out now, and then word of mouth spreads. And I thought, okay, let's go to those people first, because if we can get that, there's no point building all the flashy, sexy stuff in the world if there's no one to use it. So I thought, go to the users first. And I think a lot of projects, and I've been very real with you, Liam, I think there's a lot of projects that I see and I love them. I think, wow, this is the technology here is great, and the uses are great. And I think, have you built up any audience? Have you built up any user base? Are you going out there and telling anybody? And it doesn't. And that's what I'm trying to say. And I've deliberately approached it from the opposite direction with N99. I thought, okay, I'll go out and tell people, and then that's going to basically push it to get built. And the last people I'll go to would be the coders, rather than getting the coders to sit around and talk about it and have no audience. And because I've seen this over and over again, and I just think it's like you said. I mean, it's like you said. I just think it's really crucial that everybody gets on board, and that's what I'm saying. We can't just make it like you were saying earlier on, where it just becomes this sort of codey, small, intrinsic world. And I think I think with every project now, I think everyone should be focusing on, okay, it's great. Maybe in your little circle of friends, you've got this new, you know, graphics card, or you've got this and that, and it maybe impress a few people. Think about it in terms of, is this going to really impress the wider audience? Would your grandma get it? Would the local, you know, your guy who sells your papers down your shop, is he going to get it? If he can't, and you can't answer that in one sentence, then start again. Because as you said, at the heart of everything, it's got to break down to a simple message, and that's what marketing is about. And I know it's funny, because in the spaces that we work around, that marketing is like a big, like a curse word that no one even wants to talk about. But it's true. But it's true. You don't get anything across. I mean, how many great ideas, how many great musicians, how many great artists are just lost because they didn't put themselves out and let people know.
There was this great artist from London, and he was called. I think a lot of people might know him, but he's called Burial, and he was in like the dub movement, not a dubstep, but dub, and he was like a completely sort of anonymous guy. But his music is probably some of the best music that I've ever heard. But because of the lack of promotion and marketing and the sort of movement forward, like, I believe he could have been one of the most interesting and talented musicians ever. But unfortunately, because the time and energy wasn't put into it, so it fell by the wayside, right? And that's not just on the marketer side, but that's also on the sort of development side. I feel like development and marketing should conjoin forces. So like, let's say just, in terms of tech, right? You've got a feature release, right? Market the feature release. Market the way, why is this going to happen? Why are you doing this? Are you doing this to please, a wider audience, or are you doing this to please the people in your community? You need to expand your community, okay? What I see with a lot of crypto products, it's like there's not much adoption, which is extremely unfortunate. There's not much adoption, and it's very, very hard to breach the next gap of it, because everything is so time consuming and complicated. So time consuming and complicated. If you use an application on a phone, it's like 2 seconds. Download it, boom, you're in. Okay, perfect. This is what we need to focus on. I don't feel there's rationale for making things overcomplicated. I feel like a lot of the time when people overcomplicate systems and stuff like that, it's because they want it to feel like it's a complex thing and they're intelligent. And that's not a jab at anyone, but that's just like they're trying to prove that you're intelligent. But you can be intelligent in creating something that can expose a wider market. That's the real intelligence, But I'm not knocking anyone. I'm just saying, like, generally, the people that are involved in the crypto space, they do a lot of work. But the work is not done in the wrong way. It's just unrealized, unfortunately, because of the way they put it forward. And that's and that's what I'm trying to help with, and that's what I'm trying to really push forward, because I feel like a lot of the technology is very usable, but it does take kind of a complex understanding. Once you remove the complex understanding, then you've got a very viable product, which you can make money off. You can it can help people. It can move stuff forward. But if you're dealing with like a 24-day download time, and you're dealing with something that crashes every 2 minutes and it throws up an error every second when you try to do something, and then it's not translated into different languages so people can't understand it, it's not feasible, right? Like, anyone would say that's not feasible. But this is just the groundwork right now that we're dealing with. So the groundwork can be built upon. So that's a really important part of what we're doing.
I think that's essential to basically where the essential role you step in, because I found it, and I'm sure you're already aware, that almost by the intrinsic nature of all creative people. I'll give you a quick example. You just said then about what you're just talking about, and if you just took that away from programming and code, and you went, man, I know so many musicians who, they put on the extra little guitar, they just look at me, would be really great, or they put, a singer will do this, just, they got 16, 7 octaves just to show off. It's got nothing. And then you listen to someone who's got a bit of soul, and you think, oh, actually his voice is a bit ropey, but it's got more of a soul. So that's just generally, people love to show off, that's a peacocking of humans. But I think what you do find is, this is what I'm trying to bring back. You're very essential where you are as ICO Countdown, and that's why I think it's a great signpost in what you play and the role you play is essential. Is that these projects, these coding things, they will either be very peacocky and they love to show off what we talked about, or they put their heads under the parapet and they're very much shy types. And it needs people like where you are, and that essential, like you're doing, is shining a light and saying, this is this is that, this is that. And maybe you're serving that role that some of these code, like you spoke about mindset. Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's so many projects I know that don't put enough into letting everybody know. You know what I mean? But that's exactly where the role that you step in, because these people, maybe it's by the nature of what they do, they're not intrinsically good at. And this is, as you were saying earlier on, we can all help in certain roles, and that's the essential role. And I think the established role you're going to have in this whole sphere, that's a great light you're going to be able to. You're going to be like the beacon that's just going to be able to shine this light and say, this is what's going on over here, and this is what's going on over here. And that's essential, because if not, like I said, we're going to get lost in this darky storm, these seas, where everyone just gets crashed in and things just get battered, and before we get to the shore and nothing ever happens. It needs, I don't mean to know, I hope there's more ICO countdowns. I hope there's more replicants of what we do. I think we need more and more lights out there shining, and like you said before, into every of these new projects, because I think it's just essential. More and more people know about it and they hear about it. So I think it's all heads up to you, man. You keep up the great work. Because, and I say this to you personally, when you went through the process of my own experience, you asking, it definitely helped me, my man. That can be shown on record. I mean, go and see it. You can see I started off like that, and it went boom. The minute I came, so it all does help, and that's again factually proven, out there, shown. This is what I'm saying. It's all evidence of what we're talking about. We're not just sitting here talking. These things do actually all help, and look at where we all are. And this is, I think, the overall positive message we can maybe take from this conversation is that both of us have got to this point and understood that if we can just, like you said, to shine the light upon each other, help each other along the way, point each other on the path, who knows what's going to happen? But it's better to be involved than not be involved.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, thank you for your comments. Like, I really, but that's my aim. It's like if you create a positive impact for other people, like you're doing, if you're creating a positive impact for other people, then you'll create a positive impact for yourself. Like the business, in terms of business, it's like, you want to create a positive impact because the positive impact is solving a problem that's out there that's needed. So all I did when I was creating my project was like, I looked at a problem, I tried to solve the problem most effectively as I could, and it worked. So it's successful. It's the same with your project. If you take it from a very different angle and a very different approach, I believe that it could be, people could look at those, because all these things are approaches. Even if they're in computer science and they're just defined by computer science, they're all different approaches, like the proof of work model, proof of stake, crowd sale, mining, whatever it may be. They're all just different models. But if you can change the inherent model, which is like, the marketing or the sort of the business model of it, or the idea behind it, then you'll get massive success. And I feel like that's what is really needed. And I'm glad to help you, and I'm glad to help, other communities, because that's what it's all about. It's like, if I can make someone else's project happen, or it can be a better project because of me, why wouldn't I do it? This project, and typically like Made Safe it's like the Safe Exchange. Like Safe Exchange, the crowd sale was, it was reasonable. It wasn't exponential, but then it turned into something huge. So why, it's like, and not only that, you do your analytics and you understand that. And it's like, well, if I don't do it, then I'm just doing a disservice to myself and I'm doing a disservice to everyone else. So that's my main idea and philosophy behind it. And I'm very happy to help, anyone that wants to push forward a good project and make it extremely successful. And that's what I want. It's like you're on the ground, you're moving, you're in the street talking about what's happening. Okay, you're not just you're not just saying, oh well, this is a good project because of X. You're actually asking people, what do you want? What do you need? Do you need this? Like, and that's how you create a value. That's a value proposition. So you say like, well, we've got something that you want because you've identified these problems. So we can go and say, boom, this solves your problems. And that's much needed in like the artistic world and the music industry. You're seeing even with, this is probably going to be released on YouTube, but YouTube, is kind of like, YouTube is a monopoly. So you got like YouTube, and YouTube is kind of like dictating who stays on the site, who's off the site, what they're doing. And it's a whole plethora of things. Why can't there be an alternative to YouTube? There is Vimeo, but it's not as popular. It needs someone to come across, like someone needs to develop a new sort of technology to put that in the frame as well, right? That's just like another problem that people have got. And I'm just throwing that out there. That's a free one for everyone who's listening. If you can develop the alternative to YouTube and actually make it successful and do a completely different business model, then you will be like a billionaire. 100%. You will be a billionaire, because right now, even the media faculties that we're dealing with, they've got real inherent problems. So that's just another idea. Yeah.
Well, can I sort of maybe we can conclude this whole conversation on that, and it ties in with what the whole kind of reality of what we've been discussing tonight. You know, it goes back to the crowd. So I put a figure out there, and the point is, might it reach the figure? And you said about YouTube, man, that's exactly it. I'm putting visuals on this thing. YouTube, your days are over. N99 is coming, man. They're going to let storms after us, man. It's gonna, like, you know what I mean? This is what I'm saying. Look, now, before we do sort of wrap this up, where can people that have heard this, where can they reach out to you? I know you're on Twitter, so tell them people where they can reach out to you.
Yeah, I mean, just go on ICOCountdown.com. There you can find like my Twitter information, my Skype information, my Facebook information, everything that you need. I also write articles doing due diligence. But if you want it, you know, Facebook/ICO Countdown, yeah, Facebook.com/ICO Countdown, Twitter.com/ICO Countdown, Skype ICO Countdown, and that's pretty much it. But just go on the website, you'll find all the information you need, and and you can contact me at any time. I'm always available for anything you need, even if it's just simple questions. Don't be afraid to ask me. You know, I want as many people joining this community as possible from any community. If you don't understand it, I will help you. If you want something done, I will help you, or I can put you in put you in some sort of perspective so someone actually can help you. You know.
Perfect, man. Well, that's a great way to wrap this conversation. Well, man, thank you for, you know, taking kind of short and brief one. Maybe we'll pick this up at maybe some point very soon, because, you know, like I say, I think we've only kind of barely scratched upon a few issues. But, man, thank you for giving me your time tonight. And so from myself over here, and, you know, over here in Scotland and over there in the USA, man, it's life is people.
Yeah. Thanks, man. See you.